Hello, everyone, and welcome to Alumni Talks. My name is Ernitza, and I'll be the moderator of today's session on behalf of the MBA selection platform Unimi. Today's webinar is devoted to the residential MBA programs at the Samuel Curtis Johnson Graduate School of Management at Cornell University. I would like to welcome our panelists. Here we have Ali Aspi, Executive Director of Admissions and Scholarship at Cornell Johnson, and two of Johnson's MBA alumni, Ankar Sahni and John Beasley. We will start with a presentation of the different MBA programs and their advantages. Then we will continue with a panel discussion in which Ankar and John will share with us more about their academic experience at Johnson and how it contributed to their personal and professional development. Your questions are very welcome, so if you have any, please type them down either in the chat box or in the Q&A section anytime during the webinar, and we'll take the time to address them at the end of the session. Now, I would like to give the word to Eddie to share with us more about the MBA programs at Cornell.
Great, thank you so much. And of course, thank you all for joining us today. So of course, good morning, good afternoon, or even good evening, depending on where you are calling from throughout the world. As mentioned, my name is Eddie Aspi. I'm the Executive Director of Admissions and Scholarship here at Johnson. I oversee our residential 1 year and our 2 year program here in Ithaca. I've spent the last 9 years here at Johnson, have spent the last 17 years in higher education. And I will tell you that what I love most about my job is really being able to help candidates along the way throughout their journey to really further their education and, of course, get accepted and apply to one of the best schools in the world, which is Cornell, the Samuel Curtis Johnson Graduate School of Management. So once again, thank you so much for being here. Of course, throughout this presentation, I am going to spend probably the next 15 minutes or so just speaking on behalf of our program, what I feel makes us unique. But of course, I'm really excited to have two of our alums on the call, which I'll have them briefly introduce themselves before I jump in the presentation. And then, of course, we really hope that this is an interactive session for you to ask more questions. But once again, before I get started with the presentation, Ankar, if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself briefly, and then of course, John, and then we'll go into the presentation.
Sure, Eddie. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who's on this call today. My name is Ankar Sahni. I'm a graduate of the Samuel Curtis Johnson Graduate School of Management from the class of 2011. So I'm 10 years out of school now, and I live and work in New York City. I work for a large oil and gas company. I run corporate treasury for the company. Happy to be on this call and happy to answer any questions later on.
And John.
Hey, I'm John Beasley. I'm a 2017 graduate from Johnson at Cornell. We're currently a senior manager at American Express, living and working in New York City. So it's wonderful to see everyone here.
Great, thank you. All right, so I'm going to start off with, once again, just a brief presentation, really just focusing on the various programs that we have here at Johnson. And of course, as I had mentioned, I represent our 1 year and our 2 year MBA program. First of all, just want to make sure that you can see the presentation. Are we good? Great. All right, so once again, what I will, as far as our program, here at Johnson, our program, as I had mentioned, I oversee our 1 year and our 2 year MBA program. But the first thing that I really want to focus is on why Cornell, and I'll give you my thoughts on it. And of course, throughout this presentation, you'll also hear from John and Ankar about their reasonings. But one, and I believe the most important thing is really more of the educational base that you're going to get. By coming to an institution like Cornell or like Johnson, you really do have that worldwide recognition where you have that opportunity to really be able to grow both personally and professionally within your industry, whether you're looking to make a career switch or whether you're looking to switch within functions or various disciplines. But also within our program, we do give you that opportunity to really be able to explore Cornell's top ranked programs that's out there. And we'll talk more about the flexibility of our program, but with our program, we do give you that option of not only taking courses through the business school, but also taking courses throughout Cornell as a whole. But of course, with a great institution, you also have to have those who are leading the way and leading the charge. And I love to highlight our faculty. We do have that worldwide recognition, but also world-renowned faculty members who are coming from the industry, who are utilizing their expertise to really be able to help our students to grow within, once again, personally and professionally. But of course, that, without a program like Cornell, you also need that the strength of the student body, but also the strong alumni presence. And once again, hearing some of the stories today, this is where you'll learn more about our alums, their background, and really the value of a Cornell MBA. And then, of course, our location. And one of the things that I believe about Cornell, about Ithaca, New York, is that it is a hidden gem. It is located in central New York. We are about 4 hours north of New York City, located in the Finger Lakes region. But if you're looking for an amazing college town, of course, a diverse student body, beautiful nature, those are some of the things that you will get with Ithaca as well as Cornell. So as I had mentioned, I do represent our 1 year and our 2 year MBA program. And I really want to talk about the difference between the two programs. And I think that as you go throughout this journey, having a clear understanding of the difference of the programs are going to be really important. For our 2 year MBA program, which is of course our residential, I would say more of our standard program that we have here, this incoming class, we enrolled a class of 304 students in the program. We get asked all the time, what type of student do we see in the 2 year program? Typically, we will see someone who is, of course, looking for a 2 year educational experience, someone who's looking for 2 years of that networking, and 2 years of leadership opportunities, but also someone who's looking for that internship experience. Also, we see a lot of career switchers who may be in the 2 year program, or once again, someone who may be earlier on in their career. As you can see from this slide right here, from our 1 year versus our 2 year, format, the first year is pretty standard, like most business schools out there, where you're going through your core curriculum. So your accounting, your stats, your finance, your operation type courses in that fall semester. But then once the spring semester begins, we have what we call our Immersion learning program, which I do believe is something that sets Johnson apart, which I will highlight in a couple slides. But then also just that opportunity to really continue to develop as a leader. You, of course, then go through your summer internship experience. And then that fall and spring of your second year, that's where you have that flexibility, once again, to really be able to customize the program that best suits you. So whether it's taking advantage of our Cornell Tech program in New York City, whether it is taking advantage of international opportunities, whether it is taking advantage of, once again, leadership opportunities, whether it's partnering with our Johnson Board Fellows, or even just our leadership programs team, that second year really gives you that flexibility. And then, of course, there's our 1 year MBA program. So our 1 year MBA program is an accelerated MBA program. Of course, it begins in May and it ends the following May. The one thing about this program, this past year, we enrolled a class of approximately 60 in the class. With the 1 year program, typically we will see someone who is either advanced in their career. We see a lot of students who may be dual degree candidates in the 1 year program. Someone who is looking to get a 1 year general MBA within an accelerated time frame. So once again, having those conversations as far as if a 1 year versus a 2 year program makes sense, it's going to be something that is very key to you. The one thing that you want to keep in mind, though, about the one-year program in particular, is that to qualify, you must have certain certifications like a CFA or a CPA or an advanced degree that would qualify you for the one-year program. If you do have questions about your qualifications, on our OneYear MBA page, on our admission site, there is a one-year eligibility check link. You can fill it out, upload your resume or provide your resume, and then a member of our team will review it and, of course, notify you if you qualify for the one-year program. But once again, pretty standard. Summer is your core courses. You also do your summer core courses in Ithaca with the Cornell Tech students. And then the fall and the spring semester, it's more of, once again, the opportunity of taking elective courses and really customizing the program that works best for you. So as I had mentioned a little bit earlier about our immersion learning program. So the immersion is something that I truly believe is something that distincts Johnson versus other schools. One of the things that we mention all the time in our program is about the hands-on experience that you get within your 2 years in the program. Of course, there are times, especially in the core, where it's going to be lecture-based courses. But then it's, you go through those case methods, you go through that hands-on and that practical experience where you're actually going through company visits and working with, business practitioners out there. But in particular, this is what the immersion is going to give you. So the immersion happens in the spring semester of your first year. If you're doing the one-year program, of course, it's going to happen the spring semester right before you graduate. But once again, it's designed to really give you the opportunity to take advanced level courses within your particular area of interest. Of course, you get feedback from experts in the field. You're doing company visits. And what it's really designed to do is to prepare you for that summer internship. So think about it. For anyone who is a career switcher, you're probably looking to get some of that experience, underneath your belt before you, begin that internship. Or maybe it's, just understanding the lingo within, that industry or within that organization. This immersion learning program is going to give you that opportunity. So as far as some of the immersion options, right here, you will see that, there is an immersion focusing on strategic product and marketing, digital technology, operations. There's corporate finance, investment banking. There is a customized immersion, especially if you're looking to go into a very specific, career path itself. And of course, there's investment research and asset management as some of the options for our immersion. And of course, there's a couple intensives, which I'll elaborate a little bit further on one of my next slides. But once again, this is really designed to really prepare you for the next steps throughout your journey. So for some of you that may not be familiar with our Cornell Tech program, we do have a Cornell Tech MBA program located in New York City. So it is an actual physical campus where our residential MBA students from both the 1 year and 2 year program here in Ithaca can also take advantage of that campus. For anyone who's interested in Cornell Tech really is a program that bridges the gap between business and the digital economy. So if you are looking to be an entrepreneur, once again, whether you are looking to do various other things, within the tech side of things, Cornell Tech is a great option for candidates. But once again, if you're looking to do a 1 year, 2 year residential program in Ithaca, a couple options that you have. We have our New York City fall elective courses, which will happen in your second year. But this gives students the opportunity on Fridays and Saturdays to take up to 2 courses. And they're, of course, elective courses focusing on various areas, whether it's focusing on cryptocurrency, fintech, design thinking, cloud computing, to name a few. But once again, this is an option for you. Another option is taking advantage of one of 2 intensives. There is the fintech intensive, and then there's also the digital marketing intensive. These also provide you that opportunity to really immerse yourselves into these particular areas, and also working with those Cornell Tech students as well as various companies in the New York City area. With the intensives in particular, they happen in the spring semester of your second year. So of course that semester right before you get ready to graduate, but they're both 7-week intensives where you actually live in New York City. There's actually housing right on the Cornell Tech campus for you, where you are taking elective courses in these various areas. After those 7 weeks, you have the opportunity of continuing your time at Cornell Tech, taking additional elective courses, or returning back to Ithaca, where you can finish out your remaining weeks, with your graduating classmates. So one of the things that I say about this is that we do give you the best of both worlds within our program. But once again, if you are someone who's looking to go more in the tech side of things, once again, this is a great option for you. I'm sure by talking to students, by reading our website, you really do hear a lot about what leadership is like, here at Johnson. Through our leadership programs, we do talk about our 4 C's, our 4 C's framework, which is about competence, character, compassion, and courage. These C's we do, believe are key elements in leadership, and really hope to instill this within our students. But then there's also various ways of really developing your leadership here at Johnson, whether it is going through your core team experience, which happens right in the fall semester, where we identify about 4 or 5 students from various different backgrounds, and it's ultimately working together as a team to really be able to come up with the best business solution, navigate various problems, and really to work together. I'm sure that, our alums can talk about their core team experience. You will hear some students who will talk about how they love their core team or find their core team to be a challenge, which is part of business. But once again, this is also a way to really kind of develop, with your leadership. But then also, as you can see here on this screen, there are also other various ways of being a leader here at Johnson, whether it's being a Park Fellow, whether it's, joining, being a non-voting member on a local nonprofit here in the Ithaca area, whether there are leadership expeditions, which provide international or domestic opportunities for you. But once again, it's one of the key components of who we are as a community here at Johnson. Of course, I would have to highlight Ithaca. As I had mentioned in my first slide about our location, I really do believe that Ithaca is a hidden gem. Once again, as I had mentioned before, we are located in central New York, about 4 hours north of New York City. This is a very active and engaging college town. We are the largest of the Ivy Leagues, but also when you think about our campus, our location, there are beautiful waterfalls on our campuses, great historical buildings, also state-of-the-art, buildings, but also we're in wine country here in New York State, and some great wineries, breweries in the area. For those of you who may be thinking about bringing your family or your partner or significant other to Ithaca, this is a great place to raise a family, but also to have your family grow. So continue to do research on Ithaca. We get asked all the time about visits. Currently, we are doing everything still from the virtual side. I'm hoping that by the spring semester, we will be welcoming visitors, but in the meantime, stay connected to our students as well as our alums. So just have a couple more slides before, of course, I have John and Ankur talk a little bit further. But of course, being that I'm a part of admissions and oversee admissions, I want to make sure that you have a good sense of what our application deadlines are for this year. And then, of course, the next slide would talk briefly about some of our admissions requirements. So, of course, for our 1 year and our 2 year program, and of course, if anyone's looking at Cornell Tech, the Cornell Tech deadlines also align with our 1 year MBA deadlines as well. But, right now we've already had a September early action round for our 1-year program. A couple days ago was our October round for both our 1-year and our 2-year application. If you are applying directly to Johnson, the next application round will be January 5th. And then, of course, there is a March deadline as well as an April deadline, depending on the 1-year and the 2-year program. There is another way of applying to business school, so which is called the consortium. The consortium is an organization that supports the underrepresented population towards business education and towards business goals as well. If you are applying through the consortium, there are only 2 deadlines. There's an October 15th deadline as well as a January 5th deadline. So once again, that is the application deadlines itself. I will say that when it comes to applying to business school, ultimately you want to make sure that you are submitting your application when you know it's at its best. My last slide for you, though, is just a little bit about the application requirements. As you can see right here, and of course I won't go into too much detail, and of course we can discuss it further during the Q&A side of things. But here's our checklist of things that we're looking for. I will say that when I look at an application, probably the first thing that I will go to is your resume, and looking at your work experience, looking at your accomplishments, your achievements, and really how you've been able to show that progression. And when I say progression, I don't mean just a title, increase. I'm looking about ways that you have really made a difference within your organization, taking on new projects, if you can quantify your work, and really being able to show that growth. That's what we're really looking for. And of course, you can see the various things, whether it's the goal statement plus your impact essay, letters or list of activities, letters of recommendations, of course, the academics side of things. Of course, if you decide to take the test or request a test waiver. But then ultimately, I will say probably one of the most important things throughout this process is that interview. That is your opportunity to shine. That's your opportunity to tell your story on why Johnson, how you see yourself being a good fit, and really being able to highlight, what those goals look like. So that's just a little bit about Johnson, a little bit about the application process. Of course, I do want to spend more time now, of course, transitioning this conversation to our alums. But of course, if there's any questions that you have moving forward, this is my personal email. I welcome any questions that you may have, and of course, wish you all the best in your journey. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and of course, I'm going to welcome John and Ankur back to the big screen, let's say. But once again, thank you both for being here. Thanks for all that you do, and of course, representing our program. But this time, John, I'm actually going to start with you, and if you wouldn't mind, I know that you gave a brief introduction, but if you wouldn't mind reminding the audience about your background, maybe even just highlighting things that you were doing before you started an MBA, and then once again, what you're currently doing.
Well, thanks, Eddie. So my story from before Johnson was pretty clear. I left undergrad and I was a recipient of an ROTC scholarship. So I joined the U.S. Army right afterwards as an officer, deploying twice to Afghanistan with a teaching stint in between at Fordham University. It was actually during my second deployment where I was working on regional plans that it reminded me of a conversation I'd had with a consortium member that perhaps an MBA was the route for me to take my career forward. So consulting with him over email, consulting with a number of individuals in my social circle, came to the conclusion that this is actually what I would like to go for. Did all of my applications from overseas, did all of my conversations, all of my coffee chats from overseas. Frankly, Johnson could not have been more supportive of the fact that I was so remote during that entire application cycle. invited me to Ithaca for the interview. I had to graciously decline since I was still stuck overseas, and they were happy to do it over Skype instead. All of which led me to, after my MBA transitioning, after doing an interview, doing an internship, with American Express during my internship summer, converted to a full-time offer, and now I'm at Amex working on digital project management. So that's me.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. And of course, once again, thanks so much for your support, John. So, Ankur, same thing with you. Can you talk maybe a little bit about where you were before an MBA? Once again, what you're doing now as well.
Sure, Eddie. Look, I am from New Delhi, India originally, and prior to MBA, I was in electronics and communication engineering undergrad in India, and but I actually started my career in finance and technology. So I was an equity research analyst for a large European bank, and I was helping them build their finance and banking presence in India. And I spent some time working as a consultant as well. And what I realized was that I'd always been in one city, and I really didn't have that global exposure, if you will, to grow a business and really learn international business practices. So I really wanted to kind of grow my career, and I happened to speak with someone who was a recent alumni of Cornell, and we hit it off right away. And I got to learn a lot about the school, his experiences. So Cornell, that's where Cornell came into picture for me. This is 2008, and I applied to the school. I received what's called a Tata Scholarship from India. Ratan Tata is a major entrepreneurial group in India, and he's a very well-known person in India. And I got the scholarship from an Indian institution that he runs. He himself went to Cornell. He has a presence in the Ithaca campus still, and got to know about the school, and that's where my journey began. So I got into Cornell at 2009, and that was my beginning of journey in the US. And I wanted to grow my career as a finance leader and professional. So I had just the right skills and the opportunities. I took up what's called the managerial finance immersion back in the day. Now it's called corporate finance. And just like John, I got an opportunity to go as an intern to American Express. But John, this was way before you. This is the summer of 2010. And, that was a fantastic experience. I feel the immersion program that I studied in my second semester at Cornell really, really put me in a good stead to perform well as a summer intern. And I got back full-time in the leadership rotation program in finance at American Express used to have back in the day. Again, a fantastic experience with the school, massive alumni base, both in New York City, in New York, and back home in India, where you always want to make sure that you're in a place where there's a lot of school alumni, so you can help each other out. And I still, I'm proud to be a Cornell alum, and happy to answer any questions today. Since then, I work for Hess, which is a large oil and gas company, and my career has progressed since then. I run what's called the capital markets division of Hess. So I run everything from managing billions of dollars of cash, trading, hedging oil prices, insulating interest rate risks, managing foreign exchange exposures, and really running the corporate treasury function at Hess today.
Great, thank you so much. So I know that candidates are always asking about, the overall program, your overall experience. And I think one of the questions that, comes to mind is, what did you really value about the program itself, especially thinking about, your time, being out of the program, really being able to progress in your career. But once again, just the question is, what did you value, about the program, here at Johnson? So Ankur, I'll let you go ahead and answer that question. And then John, feel free to jump in.
Sure. Look, I valued a lot of things, but the things that really resonated well with me were just the curriculum itself. The core and the immersion program itself was so well structured, because if, for example, I was an international student, and I joined the business school when we were in the middle of a global financial crisis. I came in believing that I could, thinking I could, grow my career in capital market side, but then it was getting more and more challenging to join a small asset management business back in the day. But so I transitioned, and the program flexibility allowed me to move into the corporate finance immersion, and I saw a lot of instant success in, being able to talk to companies, so that preparation for that, the flexibility of the program and the strength of the core was very important. First element for me that prepared me for, what I do today. So that's a foundation, right? The second thing was the class diversity. I think 40 or so % of the class was international. I had grown up and, I was born and raised in India. So, being in a class with all global nationalities was the first time I was actually facing and, seeing and enjoying diversity in my classroom, and Ithaca, for some of you may have to be in Ithaca, but if not, Ithaca is so multicultural for a small town. I think there's probably the most per capita restaurants and all cuisines back in the day. And, that element of being in the city, in a small town and making friends with your classmates was very, very dear to me. We are still very good friends. I think you can't do that in a large city where, where people just go off to do whatever they want to do. In a small town, you do spend a lot of time with your classmates. So that diversity element for me was the second thing that drew me and, still attracted me. Third thing was just the alumni base, right? Cornell is a massive, it's a huge, I think it's the largest Ivy League institution, as Eddie mentioned. And, if tomorrow I decided to go back to India or, be here in the US, I always wanted to be where there's a lot of Cornell alumni. And I think that's been true to its word. Over the years, I've met so many alumni. It doesn't have to be just from the MBA program. It can be engineering or other schools. And people are always willing to help out and, reach out and, work together, brainstorm ideas. So just to, in a nutshell, it's the core curriculum, the strength of it, the class diversity, and the large alumni base that really, made the program really a solid one for me.
Anything to add, John?
I mean, I will certainly echo for Ankur what he said about the intentionality of the program, right? So I was certainly a career switcher. I was certainly someone that was unused to business as a whole. But from the first day, them taking me through the curriculum, making sure I understood what basics I would need to be successful, and then pushing me into the immersion that was actually the best fit for me. And then I still say that the immersion programs themselves are incredibly well timed before your summer internship, because I kid you not, my first deliverable at American Express came straight off the midterm when I left school. So you could not hope for a better level of preparation than having already done a graded assignment on the very first deliverable you're going to do at your summer internship. So that plus the community, he's absolutely right. The community is fantastic. You say the same thing for everybody who goes to Ithaca and spend time during the program. You're still hanging out like years and years later. Like you're still taking like multiple group Cornell photos of people's weddings. Like it's incredibly close, class-wide, not just for your core team, which is, again, not something you see at other institutions. So, fantastic experience overall.
Great, thank you so much. So I know that, of course, candidates are, of course, not only looking to go to a great institution, they're also looking to get a great job, all right? So can you maybe just talk a little bit about how Johnson was supportive in helping you prepare for your post-MBA goals? So whether it's connecting with the Career Management Center, whether it's working with various, clubs and organizations, just want you to just share a little bit about, what that looks like, for a student here at Johnson. And John, if you want to maybe kick that off.
Sure. It's really hard to kind of in one 30-second soundbite say all of the different ways that Johnson really prepares you to get a job, because that's the number one thing that people, when they're entering an MBA, want. They're saying, I want to have an excellent career afterwards, and how will this help me along that way? I went through on-campus recruiting. I navigated that process, and already, going to an on-campus interview is already another level of comfort to say, okay, well, this institution has already made a commitment to recruit a certain number of students for the school year. But it really wasn't just there. It was also at large recruiting fairs. You'd go to large recruiting fairs like National Black, and once you're there, you speak to companies and saying, oh, I'm sorry, I saw your name badge. You go to Cornell. We have a separate agreement with Cornell with separate deadlines regarding offers and recruiting. So we should have a conversation away from the booth about what that process looked like for you versus for everyone else that's here looking to also get a summer internship. When I first got to American Express, the alumni office sent me a list of everybody across the university that worked at American Express. When I was interviewing, they had senior leaders of the company at the VP and higher level reach out to me directly to say, here's how you would prepare for your interview. People were on paternity leave and they still were reaching out to me for phone calls while I was getting on a plane to come to New York. I mean, the level of support that I had during, leading up to, and through the interview process, through my summer internship was just incredible. Can't put a price on that.
I totally echo John's points here. I think it exactly lived and breathed through that. I think just to add to that, when I came into my first year, right, there were second year MBAs who were already just back from the internships, and we had a general idea of which companies we wanted to intern with. And in my case, at some point it was American Express and some other financial institutions. And when we spoke and expressed our desire to intern at these companies with the second year MBAs who had their many of whom had their full-time offers, they instantly connected us to the teams at these large institutions. And the JP Morgan or Citi or like some other large companies that hire from Cornell. And these companies would come and make presentations to the students, and we would attend them. And there would be at least 20 alumni, coming in, recent alumni, more senior people. And we would spend a lot of time getting to know them. And then what happened was that was initiation of a relationship with these alumni who was working at these companies. So by the time 6 months later we were interviewing for these companies, we already had relationships with these people. And then on top of that, the career management office was extremely helpful in exactly giving us a list of these alumni. There were classroom presentations in our immersion program sometimes where some of our very senior executives would come in and talk about their careers. And those were excellent opportunities, because if you want to get into a company, or if you want a certain position, the onus is on you, right? After the call, reach out to that individual and tell them you want to connect with them, learn more about them. And I think that's exactly what I did. And thanks to all the resources I got through Cornell, I was able to make get to where I wanted to at the end of the program.
Great, thank you. And once again, as you go through this journey, once again, you will definitely see how supportive the community has been or continues to be. Whether it's an alum, talking to our current students, or a prospective student, whether it is a prospective candidate talking to our current students as well. And in the chat, I will send in or put in a link to our events page. I would encourage you to, attend sessions, reach out to, members of our community. But, we're here to help you, whether it's just helping you learn more about our program, the admissions process, of course, as a student, or going through the recruiting phase. But once again, this is something that I believe makes Johnson really a special place, and it really makes us unique. So, of course, a couple more questions, of course, before we, get into the questions that are coming in. Actually, one of the questions that I saw in the Q&A, it mentioned or asked a question about clubs and organizations. So this is from Alex. So of course, Alex, thanks for being on. But it says, can you talk a little bit about the clubs and organizations that you participated in at Johnson and the impact that they've had on your time in Ithaca and in your career? So definitely, wanted to make sure that I addressed that question, because of course it's much more than just the educational side and recruiting. It is being a part of, various clubs and organizations. But, Ankur, maybe you can talk about ways that you were involved and even ways that you continue to be involved even as an alum.
Absolutely, Eddie. So that's a great question. There's more clubs than you can ever handle or be a part of. There's more opportunities to do than you can. So you really have to be selective, right? So being an international student, I wanted to be a part of course, the larger organization, but I joined the South Asian Business Club, which was a regional club where the Indian or the South Asian students got together and promoted cultural activities and cultural awareness of, the South Asian community. So we organized a Diwali night on campus, which was a really big hit. And I think that was the last time I actually danced in public, and I would never do that. But that was a great night. So just for example, for candidates from South Asian countries, I think the second group I joined was Career Action Group. Now names change, sometimes group formulations change. I've been out for 10 years, but it was really meant to help first year students. I was a second year student at that time, and first year students understand how the internship process works. So I was one-on-one there's a group of 4 first-year students who wanted corporate finance jobs, and I was kind of the second-year student who was shepherding them, preparing for the interviews, connecting with the alumni, making sure that these candidates were able to express and articulate their thoughts in their resume and interviews, and kind of get those interviews. So I was able to help the first-year students from that perspective. I was also involved to some extent in the admissions process while I was still in school. I was sharing with Eddie back in the day, and still, I'm continuing to involve with Cornell local activities here in New York from time to time. But just some examples of things that have connected me to the school.
And then you, John.
Yeah, I still credit the various clubs with teaching me exactly what I needed to know to be a success, both at the school and then out in the broader kind of business community. So I made my first connection with the Association of Veterans right after I got my invitation to interview, and did a couple of coffee chats with the members, the second years there, to help them coach me through exactly what I was in for in terms of interview experience. When I got onto campus, it was the Marketing Association that really taught me exactly what I needed to know to be any good at marketing interviews. When I was trying to make my way out in the wider world, I had the opportunity to give back, and they said, well, we're going to do a larger Veterans Association for the university. And since you graduated from Johnson, we would love you to be a part of that. So I support the alumni committee there. I'm on the Johnson Recent Alumni Council to ensure that we're giving back to the school the same way the school gave to us when we were launching our careers. So there, as Ankur said, there are so many different opportunities to get involved on campus. You're not going to hurt for an opportunity to either deepen your domain knowledge or expand your network into areas that you think would be helpful to you, either on campus or out in the broader community. So everybody still talks to one another. So it's not like these relationships are going to end just once you graduate.
All right. So I'm going to ask one last question, and then, of course, we will open it up to any questions or the questions that I've seen come in so far. But now that you've graduated, how do you balance both your personal and professional life? As I'm sure many are trying to figure out, especially with the times that have changed, especially over the last year and a half. But how do you balance out both that personal and professional side of things? And John, go ahead and kick that off.
Of course. I think it's always a challenge, right? And it becomes more challenging if you work in an international team and you kind of cover markets all across the globe, right? I'm sure Ankur can empathize because, you start your day with, both IST or India Standard Time calls and London calls, and then you're ending your day with Phoenix calls that get you all the way up to like 8 p.m. at night, right? New York time. So that can be challenging, right? And how do you determine, what is important and what is not? So one of the things that I think Johnson was able to help me with, I already had a keen sense for kind of prioritization, but they really give you a lot of tools in terms of both case studies and conversations and just cross experience from the corporate world of saying, well, is this really important? Should we really be prioritizing our time and working on this? And what do we spend our limited capacity on? Because that's a question, right? You only have so many hours in the day and the week. So do your partners, so do the people that work with and for you on your team, right? So what do you really want to spend that capacity on? What's going to really drive your agenda forward? And, that really answers the question, is this extra meeting, this extra call really worth it? Will this really push me forward along towards my goals? And, that's, I think, a very good lens to view every incoming meeting request with, every different call outside your time zone, because you really do want to prioritize the things that do matter most to you. And that's honestly the first 3 or 4 weeks of term and the first year is what really are you here for? What really matters to you? And, what do you want out of this experience? And then think about what's important to you and your family and, what you want your life to look like after graduation. So all very helpful things to know up front before you go deep into recruiting season and really pick a career field.
Thank you, John. I totally echo your points. And, for me, it's always answer your why. Like, why am I doing this? Why is it important? And always have your goals written down on what you want to achieve, where do you want to be in your life. If you've not had those written down, you should, because otherwise a goal is nothing if it's not in front of you and it doesn't kind of stare at you all the day. So I have those on my wall in front of me right now. And Obviously we learn prioritization skills, what's important versus what's critical, and we are battling through those decisions every day and every hour of our life. So choose what's important to you, know what's important, where can you make the biggest impact, whether it's your professional career, your company, or your community. And you have to say a lot of no's, because people don't know, and everyone has different priorities, but you have to say a lot of no's and really focus on your time and effort, because everyone starts with the day with this finite amount of energy and finite amount of time, and you can only accomplish that much in a day. So that's how I operate. I also run a very large community group here on Long Island where I live, and it's more than 2,500 people, and there's a lot of initiatives that go on here. So besides my personal life and my work life, there's also this community life, and yeah, if you don't prioritize, we won't have the energy for ourselves. So you got to breathe and live to another day so you can kind of fight it out. So prioritize, say no to what you don't want to do, and really focus your energy on things that you think are most important to you, and have them written down somewhere.
Gentlemen, I appreciate the great advice, and I'm sure also our candidates do as well. So, I know that we can continue this conversation over and over, and really highlight what makes Johnson unique, and your overall experience. But once again, I think that it is important that we also get to some of the questions that are here. So of course, Zornitsa, if you wouldn't mind just letting us know any questions that have come through, and of course we will go ahead and answer those.
Yeah, thanks, Eddie. Well, actually, there are a lot of questions, but maybe I'll start from the back. There's a question to John and Ankur, and namely, how did you pick your immersion program at Johnson?
Sure. Take it first?
Yep, go for it, Ankur.
Oh, you want me to take it? Okay. Look, I wanted to grow my career as a finance professional, right? And investment banking was an option to me. Capital market was an option to me. So it was really a fine balance of which vehicle would take me to my career goals. And obviously, this was also the middle of the global financial crisis. And being an international student, a lot of smaller asset management companies wouldn't have been the best place for me to find a job. So what I decided at that point, based on the information I had, has served me very well over the years, that I chose a general finance career in corporate finance, because that encompasses all aspects of finance, not just banking or capital markets or asset management, and that has served me well. So really, I went through a deep introspection on what I want to do and how can I get there, and my answer was corporate finance.
So for me, it was a lot of deep conversations with the Career Management Center. I had spent 2 out of the 4 years prior to Johnson living overseas entirely. And when it sat down and it came to, well, you really love solving problems, but you really love owning the end-to-end integration of those problems that you've come up with a solution for. It sounds like you either want to go into kind of marketing business or into consulting, but one of those involves a lot of travel and one of those doesn't. So they were very, very clear about both what the lifespan of some of the consultant careers are, and then what are some of the opportunities after you exit consulting. And then on the other side, some of the longevity for folks that enter into a marketing immersion, and then some of the general skills they achieve there, and then what do their careers look like after they join these kind of large institutions. So that made those conversations, that experience made it very easy for me to choose at the time, what was called the strategic marketing immersion. I think it's now product marketing immersion.
Great, thank you, John and Ankur. Eddie, I would like to bring you back to the topic of admissions requirements and process. I know that you already mentioned the application deadlines and the key requirements, and you already shared a link to the detailed timeline in the chat box. So if anyone is interested, you could have a look at it. There are just a few details. One of our attendees is asking, in case you mentioned that there is an option for test waivers. So the question is, in case a person has the option to use a GMAT waiver, would this affect the recruitment chances, or is it still yet better to do the GMAT?
Great question. Absolutely great question. So with the test waiver itself, what I will say though, the test waiver is not for everybody. All right. The test waiver itself really should be for those who can clearly demonstrate more of their quantitative abilities, and hopefully academically you've done well. Maybe there's things that you're doing within your professional career, that it's positive. Once again, being able to quantify that on your resume, and then also even your recommenders. I know that from time to time recommenders will speak on your behalf in that area. We know that the GMAT and the GRE it's one data point, but once again, if you're granted that waiver, there should be some other aspect of your application that shows and can demonstrate the work that you've done from the quantitative side. And once again, from the admission side, we have to have that full confidence. Now, if you're someone who maybe don't come from a quantitative background, maybe you struggled academically, and there's no clear evidence of your academic success in that area, then my recommendation is to take the test. So this is where, as an applicant, you have to use your best judgment on, does it make sense, for me to request that waiver or not? Now, will it help or hurt your chances, whether you're granted the waiver or not? Absolutely not. There's so many different parts in the application that really gives us a sense of who you are as a candidate, what makes you unique, why you're a good fit for our program, and hopefully throughout that application, you do a great job of really explaining that. But also, as I had mentioned too, from the admissions checklist, there's that interview. That interview, especially the way our team operates, what's important to us, really being able to have that connection, to really be able to hear about your story. Having someone to be really authentic and genuine in that interview is going to be something that's very key. I can't tell you how many times the interview itself has been something that has made you go from just being an average candidate to being, wow, an outstanding candidate for various reasons. So, that's your opportunity to sell yourself. But once again, whether you're given the waiver or not, once again, it's one data point. But once again, you still want to be able to have evidence of, success from the quantitative side.
Thanks, Eddie. And there were a few questions referring to the topic of financing quant studies. So one question is whether there is an option for an application fee waiver. And the second is if one decides to apply for the second round, then would this minimize the chances of getting a scholarship?
Great question. So as far as an application fee waiver, so we do give application fee waivers for attending some of our admissions events. So if you go onto our events page, which I did enter in the chat feature, we have what we call our Ask Admission sessions. We have quite a few Ask Admission sessions kind of throughout the application cycle. We have what we call our all residential MBA sessions. This is a session between our 1-year, 2-year MBA program, as well as our Johnson Cornell Tech program. By attending one of those events, we do grant fee waivers. If anyone is, if any of our, women applicants are out there and part of Forte, we will give an application fee waiver for our Forte launchers, just to name some, some options. So once again, if you're looking for that fee waiver, once again, attend one of our Johnson events. Our Ask Admissions are all residential sessions. And then also on our website, I'll also put it in the chat. There is a link that also lets you know about other options or other ways of getting a fee waiver. As far as scholarship, your chances as far as scholarship for the second round. So typically by the January round in particular, there are still funding available, for candidates. My recommendation, especially if you're looking for funding, is to definitely submit your application by the January round. Anything, after the January round, that's where it's little to no funding. And just to kind of give you an idea, last year was a very, very competitive applicant pool, an increase in applications. We had high yield from our earlier rounds with people accepting our offers. So, definitely once we got to the April round, there was no funding. Every year it's completely different. It depends on the competitiveness of the pool, of those who have our offer. Do they accept our offer? So many different factors. But once again, I would encourage you to apply by the January round if you're looking for scholarship funding.
Thanks, Eddie. And since Ankur mentioned that he received a scholarship, a support from Tata, there was one question, if you could elaborate a little bit more on that. I know that it has been a while since then, but maybe if you remember how was the process, and if you know whether Tata is still providing such a support, it would be really valuable.
Sure, Sunny. Look, it's been a while, but Tata Group, for those from India, is a very large business conglomerate, and Ratan Tata himself is a Cornell alumni. There's something called the J.N. Tata Scholarship back in the day, where once I had my, I think in the December of 2008, I had my offer from Cornell, and which I accepted for the class of entering class of 2009. Somewhere in March of that year, I applied for a very competitive scholarship at Tata Group. Their office is based in Mumbai, and it's pretty selective because it's not just for MBAs, but it's really for all walks of life. Be it for somebody going for medicine, finance, engineering, doesn't matter. And I was invited back for a full-time, for an interview, and I think the selectivity rate back in the day was 1 in 10 or 1 in 20, so even less than that. So it was competitive, and I think eventually I got what was the equivalent of, call it $15,000 back in the day, which meant a lot for me coming from India, an international student. So there's a long process around it. Part of it was a gift scholarship where you would pay it back at no interest. Part of it was actually a grant itself that we didn't have to pay back. But it really made my process of coming to the US those first few months very, very easy. So check it out. It's called the J.N. Tata Scholarship. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn if you'd like to hear more. Maybe I can share my thoughts on that.
Thank you very much, Ankur. There was one very specific question about the Smith Family Business Initiative that has been mentioned. Eddie, can you please tell us more about that?
Yeah, so the Smith Family Business is, an organization or department here at Johnson that helps students who are looking to return to the family business, but also helping students to really develop, and really network in ways of growing their business. And then once again, maybe even potentially partnering with others along the way. Through the Smith Family Business, of course, there are courses, there are conferences. I know that there's a conference that's approaching for them, I believe next week. And also, of course, there are ways that the students who are coming from family business not only connect with each other here at Johnson, but also family businesses throughout Cornell. So it's a really great support system, but then also identifying various resources to help, students in that space. I'm not sure if there's any other specific questions regarding it, but I can also put that link in the chat as well. But the Smith Family Business has been around for a few years now, and has really made an impact here in our community here. Whether a student is looking to return to their family business, whether it's in the short term or the long term, but also just a great resource to really be able to connect with others here at Johnson and here at Cornell.
Thanks, Eddie. And since we are almost at the end of our session, Eddie, may I ask you also to add in the chat box your email address and possibly also the page of the career services? Because there were some attendees who were more interested in a personal consultation with them. And I'll ask one more final question. which Julian Galarza shared with us. It's to John and Ankur. If you need to pick one thing, only one thing, which is your favorite thing at Johnson Cornell? I think it's a very good question for the end of the session.
Awesome. I can go first this time. So if I had to pick one thing, it would have to be the community, because I don't know if you've ever tried, but if you wear a Cornell hat anywhere on this planet, you will run into an alum. It has happened on Immersion, on different overseas treks. We were at a park in South Africa, and a couple came up to the tour group and said, "Hey, we went to Cornell too. Is this a Cornell trip?" Happened in the Pacific Northwest. We've been on hikes, certainly in New York City. Anywhere you go, there's someone who's terribly excited to tell you about their time up in Ithaca. So it is a very wide-ranging, very diverse community that is incredibly accepting of anyone who has gotten affiliation with the school. So I would certainly say the community.
So that too, I agree with your thoughts. I actually met somebody. I was wearing a Cornell t-shirt, and I was hiking up in Himalayas when I met actually somebody while hiking the Himalayas who went to Cornell as well. So imagine how vast the network is. For me, it's the class discussion and faculty. I think that I really enjoyed. We used to have a lot of case study type discussions, and I would really enjoy participating in those discussions. I think that really helped me think how different people think about the same problem at hand, and how they tackle those, what solutions do they come up with, and how difference in opinion is something that you need to be comfortable with and kind of work in ambiguous situations. So for me, the excellent faculty and the quality of class discussions was, besides of course the community, what made my experience.
Thanks. So if I can sum up, if you want to get the Cornell t-shirt and hat, but not only that, but also the Cornell mindset, leadership skill set, network, and hands-on experience, then consider applying at Cornell and do it preferably during the next round in January. Guys, thank you very much for this informative and inspiring session. I'm wishing good luck to our attendees and a great day to all our speakers, and I hope to see you soon.